Hello and welcome to my channel. So today's video is how to read around 40 books a year and retain the information. Now a lot of people will say to you, yeah, you should read a lot of books and the reasons should be relatively obvious, but how do you retain the information? So in my head, reading a lot of books gives you an awful lot of information from experts. So if I want to know about something, I won't read just one book on the subject. I may read 3 or 4, and the different perspectives from different people will give me a deep dive into that particular topic and help enhance what I know about it and may help with business decisions and other things like that. But really, once you've learned something, it's then useful for the rest of your life. So really what this video is about is that it's no good just reading and not retaining the information. So what I'm going to go through today is how to increase your reading speed, extract the most useful information for you, and then retain that information. So without further ado, let's cue the intro. So welcome back. So why do I read around 40 books a year? I've been doing this for more than 25 years now, and I believe it's given me a vast store of knowledge which helps me to make much better decisions as I go forward in lots of different aspects of life. And when I'm saying 40 books a year, I'm not talking about fiction books. I'm talking about non-fiction stuff around business and personal development, health, psychology, these types of things, science, all sorts of different things I read to help enhance my knowledge. Now, the main point is that anybody who writes a book will generally be a relative expert in that particular area. Otherwise, they'd be feel foolish with their friends and family writing that book in the first place, right? So therefore, every book is a potential huge store of knowledge. Now, providing it's retained, if you read 40 books a year, you will learn an awful lot. Even if you don't read 40, even if it's 10, even if it's 20, how do you retain the knowledge? So that's what we're going to go into now. Okay, so before we go into it, whatever the level of books you decide to read, the most important thing, first of all, is improving your reading speed. Now, you'll find a fair number of videos on YouTube explaining how you do that. But when you read normally, your eye just doesn't move along the words and read it. You back skip quite a lot. So one of the things you ought to do is to use something like a pencil or a pen and hold it under the sections that you're reading and then move it along as you're reading those particular areas. Then other things that you try and do is to try and use your peripheral vision, so eventually your pen isn't moving across the whole page, it's just moving across the central bits. Now eventually you can get to the stage where you just move your pen or pencil or your finger just down the middle of the page, just keeping an eye in a focus, and it helps you concentrate. And this will then help you to improve your speed over time. However, it's still quite difficult doing that, despite everything you read online, because you don't have any control over a book. So what do I mean by that? So when I say a book, really you can't, when you buy the book, control the size of the text, the width of the pages, the lines that's between, and how, in fact, you can't control the book at all. It is as it is. However, I suggest that you buy a Kindle or any other type of e-reader. I prefer a Kindle. So what do I do with my Kindle here? So this is a Kindle Paperwhite, and I control the text. So what I do is I narrow the page width, because you're trying not to use your peripheral vision as much as possible, widen the space between the lines, and use bigger text. All three of those enable faster reading. So hopefully you can see that, and you can see that it's a narrow page, a fair bit of width and quite big text. So all of that enables you to get through your reading considerably faster. So once you've got your Kindle, one of the things that you also need to understand that it's okay to skim a book. So why is it okay? Well, if you're going into a particular topic, whatever that might be, right? By the time you're on your fourth or fifth book, or in some cases, in my case, 25th book on a particular subject, you start to recognize paragraphs and pages that you fully understand what it is they're saying, what it is they're explaining. So you can skim it quite quickly with a view to eliminating those points because you already know what the author is talking about because you've read it previously. So actually, skimming is encouraged. It allows you to get to the material where you don't recognize, where it's a topic that you're covering, but there's a certain aspect of it that you haven't seen before. So if you know it, skim it, and the more you read on a subject, the more likely skimming is. So it's okay to skim. The next great thing about a Kindle is highlighting. So you can highlight everything you find useful, and I would suggest that you highlight more rather than less. Now on Kindle, be a little bit careful. Highlight only individual paragraphs, because if you highlight huge book parts of the book, Kindle won't allow you to copy it across. Okay, it takes longer to highlight everything, but it's better, and you'll see as we go through it's more useful. So highlight everything that you as first read through that you're finding useful is the point. Okay, but there are also alternatives to reading. So a heads up here to Ali Abdal on his channel. Now, I'm not a big believer because I don't have a lot of what I call dead time, but he uses the Audible app. And if you watch his video, One Simple Habit That Changed My Life, he'll talk you through how that works. Okay, now, as I said, I don't do Audible because I don't spend a lot of time traveling. I tend to read faster than I can listen, but according to Ali, he listens at faster speeds and uses the bookmark feature to then bookmark on Audible, then go into it on Kindle on his laptop or whatever, and then highlight the relevant sections. So whatever you end up with a highlighted section. That's the point. So what are the steps to now integrating what you've learned and highlighted? Now this system is based on spaced repetition learning, so you need to Google that to see how it works. So spaced repetition learning. So first of all, I would set up a Kanban board. Now you can use software systems like Notion, Trello, Asana. Any of those will allow you to set up a Kanban board, and you set up a card for each book, yeah, and then in that card you could link that to a Word document in your in your document saving system, whatever that is, Dropbox, Google Drive, or whatever. Yeah, so you've got a card for each book and you've got a link to a Word document, and then generally speaking you work out the amount of time between each step, but generally let's say about a week. But if you look up spaced repetition, you would learn how much time you need to put between each step. Okay, so once you've done your highlighting, what you then do is you use a laptop or a PC and copy the highlights to a Word document or similar. So that's week one, copying your highlights across. But copying across forces you to look at the highlights again. Then a week later, read all the highlights and then start to eliminate all but the most useful highlights. So what you're aiming for now is around about a 50% cut in your highlights. And this is where highlighting single paragraphs really helps, because it helps you eliminate all the things that are not the most important points. Okay, then you go on to the next step. So round about a week later, or maybe 2 weeks later, you eliminate again, and again you go for around about another 50%. So you're eliminating and really getting it down to the bare essence of what the most important points are in this particular book. Okay, then your next step after that, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month, you set up your top 10 learning points. Now, it's important when you've got these points, and that's what the point of the Kanban board is, because you're moving the card for the book through the various steps that you've moved on, right? So now from your most important points, you pick out the top 10 learning points on the book, yeah? Then another week, month or whatever later, you dictate those points yourself into text, and you then put your own thinking around those top 10 points. So it's important that you do it in your own words and what you've learnt from that particular book and those top 10 points. Okay, then another week or a month later, go through and dictate what you think the top 10 points are from memory only. Does it match the top 10 points in your notes? Just keep doing that until you've got the top 10 points firmly embedded in your head, right? So that doesn't take very long. Each time it probably takes 5 minutes. That's it, to review the top 10 points out of a book. So then what I do is I take those top 10 highlights, and I've now started to move it into a system called Rome Research. So it's not just the top 10 highlights, but it's also my own notes. I put it into Rome Research to give me the double linking, to try and link all the different books I learned to bring the knowledge together. So that's useful as well. Okay, then lastly, you then make yourself an ongoing reminder to visit those top 10 every 3 or 4 months, just to spend 5 minutes. Do I remember the top 10? That's the point. And it's that spaced repetition that's gradually putting it into long-term memory. Okay, so the summary is you use a Kindle, highlight everything that's useful, make sure that you've spaced your Kindle out properly, eliminate until you get to the top 10 points within the book, make your own notes around those top 10 points as to what you learned, and then just keep revisiting it every few months until you can pretty much say what those top 10 points are from those books, and it's then firmly embedded in your head. So using spaced repetition. Okay, that works. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. Good luck with reading your books and moving forward and gradually building your speed. But if you enjoyed that video, please give us a like and subscribe to my channel. But thanks and goodbye for now.